A desperate plea. In the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, an emergency session had been called. Representatives from a dozen star systems, some humanoid, some utterly alien, sat in tense silence as a holographic display flickered to life at the center of the room. It showed a vast armada of warships, their hulls adorned with the cruel insignia of the Zorgan Empire. "This transmission was intercepted just cycles ago," spoke Councillor Zarn, his voice trembling slightly. "The Zorgans have amassed a fleet unlike any we've seen before. They're coming." Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber. The Zorgan Empire was the stuff of nightmares, a ruthless civilization that conquered and enslaved without mercy. For generations, the Council had managed to maintain an uneasy peace with the Zorgans. But now it seemed that peace was at an end. "Our own fleets are still recovering from the last engagements with Zorgan raiders," Councillor Thrax said grimly. "We're vulnerable. If they attack now, we won't stand a chance." "What options do we have?" asked Councillor Lyra, her large, silver eyes wide with fear. A heavy silence fell over the room. They all knew the answer. There were no options, no cards left to play. Except, perhaps, for one. "What about Earth?" Councillor Zarn ventured, his voice barely above a whisper. Heads turned, eyebrows raised in surprise. Earth, the lost colony. The world that had cut itself off from the galactic community centuries ago, retreating into self-imposed isolation. Few even remembered the location of the Sol system anymore. The humans. Councillor Thrax scoffed. What help could they possibly offer? They're primitives. Throwbacks. They were once a formidable civilization, Councillor Lyra mused. Their warships were the stuff of legend. Legend, yes. But those days are long gone, Thrax argued. And even if the humans could help, why would they? They turned their backs on the galaxy long ago. Zarn stood, his frail form trembling with resolve. What choice do we have? We must try. We must send an envoy to Earth to beg for their aid. It's our only hope. And so, with a mixture of desperation and trepidation, the Council prepared a message, a plea sent across the vast reaches of space to a world long forgotten. A world that might just hold the key to their salvation. On Earth, life continued as it always had. The great cities hummed with activity. The skies buzzed with traffic. In the shipyards of the old Earth Space Navy, rows of decommissioned warships sat gathering dust, relics of a bygone age. In one particular hangar, a group of cadets on a training exercise marveled at one ship in particular. It was massive, dwarfing the other vessels around it. Its hull was scorched and pitted with the scars of countless battles. The name Titan was emblazoned on its side, though the paint had long since faded. "Can you believe this old rust bucket used to be the pride of the fleet?" one cadet remarked, running a hand along the Titan's weathered hull. "What I wouldn't give to have seen it in action." What the cadets couldn't know, was that very soon, the Titan would roar to life once more, that its rusting decks would again be filled with the sounds of boots marching to battle, that the old warship and the fate of the galaxy itself would soon rest in the hands of one brilliant, fearless young captain. Captain Alaranova, the newly appointed commander of the ER's Titan, stood on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something big, and she would be ready for it. Arrival of the Titan. The ER's Titan emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Council's capital system, its hull glowing red-hot from the long journey. On the bridge, Captain Alaranova stood tall, her dark eyes fixed on the view screen. "We're being hailed by the Council, Captain," her comms officer reported. Elara nodded. On screen. The view screen flickered, resolving into the image of Councillor Zarn. The alien's face was drawn with worry, his eyes haunted. "Captain Nova," Zarn began, his voice heavy with emotion. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you for answering our call. We are in your debt." Elara inclined her head respectfully. The Earth Republic is honored to assist, Counselor. The Titan and her crew are at your disposal. As the communication ended, Alara turned to her crew. All right, people. Let's show the galaxy what humans are made of. The Titan sailed into orbit around the Council's capital world, a gleaming blue-green jewel against the velvet black of space. As the ship settled into its assigned dock, Alara couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. The Titan might be old, but she was still a force to be reckoned with. In the council chambers, the atmosphere was electric as Alara strode in, flanked by her senior officers. The alien counselors eyed the humans with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Captain Nova. Counselor Thrax greeted, his tone formal but not unfriendly. We welcome you and your crew. But I must ask, are you certain your ship is up to this task? The Zorgans are not to be underestimated. Alara met the counselor's gaze steadily. With respect, Counselor, neither are we. She stepped forward, activating a holographic display of the Titan. The ship's specifications scrolled by. Advanced adaptive shielding, quantum disruption cannons, an AI battle computer that could outthink any organic opponent. The Titan may be old, Alara said, a note of pride in her voice. But she's been retrofitted with the most advanced technology Earth has to offer. She's a match for any ship in the Zorgan fleet. The counselors exchanged glances, a glimmer of hope in their eyes. Perhaps, with this ancient human warship on their side, they stood a chance after all. As the meeting adjourned, Alara and her officers were given free run of the Council's military facilities to prepare for the coming battle. In the strategy rooms and simulation chambers, they pored over every scrap of data on Zorgan tactics and technology. Meanwhile, the Titan's crew worked around the clock, fine-tuning the ship's systems, running battle drills, preparing for the fight of their lives. There was an energy aboard the ship, a sense of purpose. They knew the stakes, knew the odds, but they were human. They would not shy away from this challenge. On the eve of the expected Zorgan invasion, Alara stood once more on the Titan's observation deck, gazing out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the enemy was coming. An enemy that had never known defeat. An enemy that had made the galaxy tremble. But they had never faced humanity. They had never faced the Titan. And as Alara looked out into the endless night, she made a silent promise. They would not fall. They would not fail. The Titan would stand, and the galaxy would remember the day the humans returned to the stars. The Zorgan onslaught. The alarm klaxons echoed through the halls of the ER's Titan, a wailing cry that set every heart racing. On the bridge, Captain Alara Nova gripped the arms of her command chair, her eyes locked on the view screen. Report, she barked, her voice cutting through the controlled chaos. Massive hyperspace rupture detected. Her sensor officer replied, hands flying over his console. It's the Zorgans. They're here. The view screen filled with the sight of the enemy fleet, a vast armada of dark, jagged ships, their hulls bristling with weapons. At the center of the formation loomed a vessel that dwarfed the others, a behemoth of black metal and malevolent energy, the Zorgan flagship. In the council chambers, the assembled leaders watched the same scene unfold on their own screens, their faces pale with fear. By the gods, Counselor Lyra whispered, there's so many of them. Counselor Zarn turned to the human ambassador, his expression pleading, you must engage them now, before they reach the planet. You're our only hope. The ambassador nodded solemnly and relayed the command. On the Titan's bridge, Alara felt a rush of adrenaline as the order came through. You heard the counselor, she said, her voice ringing with authority. Take us in, full combat speed. It's time to show these Zorgans what humans are made of. The Titan surged forward, its engines roaring to life as it broke formation with the council fleet. On the Zorgan flagship, the warlord Crater sneered at the sight of the lone human vessel advancing on his armada. What is this foolishness? He growled. A single ship against the might of the Zorgan Empire. His second in command, a wiry, vicious-looking creature, chuckled darkly. "Shall I order the fleet to fire, my lord?" Krator waved a dismissive hand. "Swat them aside. They are beneath our notice." The Zorgon ships opened fire, a storm of plasma bolts and missile salvos that filled the void with destruction. But the Titan didn't falter. Its adaptive shields flared to life, absorbing the barrage with barely a flicker. "Our turn," Elara said, a predatory grin on her face. "Fire, quantum disruptors." The Titan's cannons erupted, lancing out with beams of shimmering, twisted energy. Where they struck, Zorgon ships simply ceased to be, their atoms scattered to the cosmic winds. Krator's eyes widened in disbelief as his ships began to fall, their shields useless against this unknown human weaponry. "Impossible," he snarled. "Concentrate all fire on that ship. Destroy them." But the Titan was in its element now, weaving through the Zorgon formation like a dancer, its guns never ceasing their deadly song. The AI battle computer anticipated every move, every tactic, guiding the ship through the chaos unscathed. In the council chambers, the assembled leaders watched in awe as the human ship tore through the Zorgon fleet like a hot knife through butter. Cheers began to echo through the room as hope, so long absent, began to rekindle in their hearts. But the battle was far from over. Krator, enraged beyond reason, ordered his flagship to the front, determined to crush this impudent human vessel personally. The gigantic warship bore down on the Titan, its shadow engulfing the smaller ship. On the Titan's bridge, the mood was tense but determined. They had hurt the Zorgons, but the real fight was just beginning. "Steady," Elara said, her eyes never leaving the view screen. "We hold the line. We show them what it means to face humanity." And as the flagship's guns began to glow with charging energy, the Titan stood its ground, a shining beacon of defiance against the dark tide of the Zorgon onslaught. Turning the tide, the Zorgon flagship loomed over the Titan, a monstrous shadow blotting out the stars. Its guns, each one the size of a small ship, glowed with malevolent energy as they trained on the human vessel. On the Titan's bridge, the crew braced for impact, their faces grim but determined. They knew the odds, knew the power they faced. But they were human. They would not yield. Captain Elara Nova stood tall, her voice ringing out over the comm. "All hands, this is the captain. We stand on the edge of history. The galaxy's fate rests on our shoulders. But we are the Titan. We carry the legacy of Earth, of humanity. And we will not fail. Stand fast, stand strong. For Earth, for the galaxy. Nova out." As the flagship's guns fired, the Titan moved, a blur of speed and precision. Its adaptive shields trained under the onslaught, glowing white-hot as they absorbed the tremendous energy. "Shields at 60%, the tactical officer reported, his voice tense. "We can't take another hit like that." Alara's mind raced, strategies and tactics whirling through her thoughts. The flagship was too powerful, its shields too strong for a frontal assault. They needed to outthink it, outmaneuver it. "Helm, bring us about," she ordered. "Skirt the edge of their firing arc. Tactical, target their shield emitters with disruptors, then hit their weapons with everything we've got." The Titan danced around the flagship, a nimble wasp harrying a lumbering bear. Its quantum disruptors pulsed, finding weaknesses in the giant ship's shielding, while its conventional weapons rained fire upon the exposed gun emplacements. Krator roared in fury as his ship shuddered under the assault, consoles exploding around him. "Destroy them," he bellowed. "Destroy them now." But the flagship was slow, its size working against it. The Titan ran circles around it, striking again and again, chipping away at its defenses. In the council chambers, the gathered leaders watched in breathless awe as the human ship stood alone against the Zorgon behemoth. Councillor Thrax turned to his fellows, a fire in his eyes not seen in years. "We cannot let them fight alone," he said, his voice ringing with conviction. "The humans have shown us the way. Now we must follow. To arms." A cheer went up from the assembled councillors, a roar of defiance and newfound courage. Orders were shouted, fleets mobilized. Across the system, Council ships surged forward, racing to join the battle. On the Titan's bridge, Alara saw the sensor readings and felt a surge of fierce pride. "The cavalry has arrived," she said with a grin. "Let's show them how it's done." Reinforced by the Council ships, the Titan redoubled its assault. The flagship's shields flickered and died under the onslaught, its hull scorched and pitted. "Their weapons are offline," the tactical officer reported, triumph in his voice. "They're defenseless." Alara's eyes met those of her crew, a wordless moment of shared victory. They had done the impossible. They had broken the Zorgan line. But Crater was not defeated yet. With a howl of rage, he ordered his ship to ram the Titan, determined to take the humans with him into oblivion. "Evasive maneuvers," Alara shouted, gripping her chair as the Titan wrenched itself out of the path of the oncoming juggernaut. The flagship hurtled past, its hull sparking and shuddering. It was a wounded beast, but one still capable of terrible destruction. Alara knew they had one chance, one moment to end this. "Tactical," she said, her voice steady. "Target their reactor core. Full quantum disruption barrage." The Titan's guns spoke one last time, a lance of shimmering energy that pierced the heart of the Zorgan ship. For a moment, there was silence. Then the flagship exploded, a sun-going nova, a cataclysm of light and fury. In the aftermath, the Titan drifted, battered but unbroken. Around it, the remnants of the Zorgan fleet fled, their will to fight shattered by the loss of their leader. On the bridge, Alara let out a long breath, her heart swelling with pride and relief. They had done it. Against all odds, they had triumphed. The comm crackled to life, the voices of the council leaders echoing through the bridge. They were words of thanks, of gratitude, of awe. The humans had saved them. The Titan had saved them all. And as Alara looked out at the stars, at the galaxy that now looked to humanity with new eyes, she knew that this was only the beginning. A new era had dawned, an era of unity, of cooperation, an era of humanity, standing tall among the stars once more. Victory and a new era. In the wake of the Zorgan defeat, a wave of change swept across the galaxy. The council races, so long divided by fear and mistrust, now found themselves united by a common bond, their gratitude and respect for the humans who had saved them all. On Earth, the news of the Titan's victory was met with celebration and pride. The streets of every city were filled with cheering crowds, the skies alight with fireworks. For the first time in centuries, humanity felt a sense of purpose, of destiny. They had stepped back onto the galactic stage, and they would not retreat again. In the council chambers, a special ceremony was held to honor the crew of the Titan. Captain Alaranova and her officers stood tall as the council leaders bestowed upon them the highest honors, medals gleaming on their chests. "You have shown us the way," Councillor Zarn said, his voice thick with emotion. "You have reminded us of the strength that comes from unity, from courage in the face of adversity. The galaxy owes you a debt it can never repay." Alara accepted the accolades with humility and grace, but her eyes shone with a fierce pride. "We did what any human would do," she said. "We stood up for what was right. We fought for those who could not fight for themselves. That is the essence of humanity." In the months that followed, the galaxy began to reshape itself. The Council, with humanity now at its heart, worked to rebuild what had been lost, to forge new alliances and friendships. Earth became a hub of trade and diplomacy, its ships and people spreading out across the stars once more. The Titan, the ship that had started it all, became a symbol of this new era. It was no longer a relic, a remnant of a bygone age. It was a beacon of hope, a reminder of the strength and resilience of the human spirit. Under Captain Nova's command, the Titan embarked on a new mission, not one of war, but of peace. It visited worlds ravaged by the Zorgans, bringing aid and comfort to those in need. It stood as a guardian, a protector, a promise that never again would the galaxy face such a threat alone. And as the years passed, as the wounds of war healed and the bonds of friendship grew, the galaxy entered a new age of prosperity and discovery. Humans and aliens worked side by side, exploring the wonders of the universe, pushing the boundaries of knowledge and understanding. Through it all, the legacy of the Titan endured. In every spaceport, in every ship, in every heart, the story was told of the ancient human warship and the brave crew who had stood against the darkness and prevailed. It was a story of hope, of courage, of the unbreakable spirit of humanity. And it was a story that would be told for generations to come, a shining light in the annals of galactic history. For the galaxy had learned the truth that the humans had always known, that in unity there was strength, that in courage there was hope, and that as long as there were those willing to stand up and fight for what was right, no darkness could ever truly prevail. The ERS Titan sailed on, a symbol of that truth, a beacon in the night, and the galaxy followed in its wake into a future bright with promise, bright with the light of a million stars.